I've tried to find information about 2 people going missing on that date, but so far have drawn a blank. If they could be traced, it would be a huge piece of corroborating evidence which would substantiate the claims of our whistleblower. After the film aired, I was contacted by another ex-military man who claimed he knew exactly which military unit the Special Forces soldier was part of. In his email he states, "I served with 5/8 for a number of years, and knowing what we were tasked to do, including support to Special Forces, the work described by your contact would possibly have fallen to them." 5/8 headquarters is now based in Cambridgeshire as part of 3-3 Engineer EOD Regiment, the Royal Engineers Bomb Disposal Unit. I wanted to find out if he knew our military source. He asked me, was he Welsh? I replied yes. He then gave me the name of the source, purely going on the fact that he was Welsh. I was now fairly sure that this was the right regiment. Unfortunately, our newfound source did not serve alongside our original source in any active missions, and did not serve in any find and secure operations. He was not seconded to Special Forces, so he had no knowledge of the missions the original source claimed to have taken part in. I met with this second military person, and he showed me all of his military papers to prove who he was and the squadrons he served in. He explained that 5/8 is actually part of the regular army. He provided an organisational chart from memory of the various squadrons in the 3-3 EOD Engineer Regiment at that time, which deals with bomb disposal. He also gave me a lot of information of when and why the squadrons within 3-3 were set up. One interesting thing he told me was that part of his training involved travelling to remote locations and erecting containment scaffolding in a circular fashion to conceal a site. He was always puzzled by this, as he thought the scaffolding itself could never have withstood a blast from a bomb, so he thought it was for some other purpose. So, it looks like our original military source was in the Royal Engineers EOD Bomb Disposal Regiment and served in 5/8 Field Squadron. He was probably seconded to Special Forces from 5/8 Squadron because of his specialist training in sealing off, containing and protecting sensitive areas, which is what bomb disposal engineers are trained to do. In the Army, 5/8 Squadron is usually just referred to as 5/8. So it looks like the name Group 5/8 has arisen because a small group from 5/8 were seconded to Special Forces to work in a covert find and secure team, hence the name. It is known that 5/8 personnel do on occasions get seconded to Special Forces, such as the SAS or the SBS. In 1997, the whistleblower showed Derek Goff passes for both MOD St Athens and Minley Barracks. Minley Barracks again lines up with him being in 5/8 Squadron, because Minley is where the Royal Engineers do their training. Having discovered which part of the army our military source served in, I set about trying to find other members of 5/8 Squadron who served in the 80s and 90s that might have been seconded to the same covert find and secure team. Bear in mind that at any one time there could be between 60 and 100 men serving in 5/8 Squadron, and only a small number of those would have been seconded to the find and secure team. An internet search for Royal Engineer sites came up with the Sapper site and the better known Forces Reunited. These included contact details for ex-members of 3-3 Engineer Regiment, and more specifically ex-members of 5/8 Field Squadron. My inquiries into this are ongoing with ex-5/8 members, and I've made contact with several. This is a rather delicate operation because obviously anyone who was involved will have signed the Official Secrets Act. I am continuing to search for more members of 5/8 Squadron, and I would be interested in talking to anyone who served in that unit between the mid-80s and the mid-90s. I hope to report more on this in future programmes. It's a fair point to make that the story is weak because it is based mainly on the testimony of just one whistleblower. This is the reason why I am continuing to search for more evidence and more witnesses. Having said that, there are a number of reasons why I think this story is probably true. His ability to remember everything 16 years after he broke the story to Derek Goff, his reaction to me when I first turned up at his house, which I have on video, his knowledge of military operations, his general demeanour and his concern that I may have attempted to record him, his injuries and his state of health. I know Derek Goff quite well now, and I am convinced that he was in possession of the photographs that he described. I've still not been able to locate these photographs, which were given to former Police Sergeant Tony Dodd. Frustratingly, Tony Dodd's wife threw out all of his research material after he died, so the photographs may well have been destroyed. I have managed, however, to get hold of an audio recording from one of Tony Dodd's lectures given in September 1997, where he talks about cases of unexplained human mutilation in the UK, not on Brecon Beacon, but this time in Dalby Forest, Yorkshire.
And they were finding very large numbers of bodies, animal carcasses, going from cattle, horses, sheep, all, you go through the spectrum, they were getting a lot. And of course there was the Ministry of Agriculture called into this thing, and it was being kept extremely quiet by them. Not only have they found animals up there, but that particular area, which is within that frame there, they have over a period of time had 7 bodies found. Now, according to the locals up there, they said that they were informed by the people who in authority up there that the bodies were tailor's dummies which had been placed in the field by somebody on 7 separate occasions. But the thing about it is that one of my contacts actually saw them removing one of these bodies one day, and there was a hearse at the side of the road, which was accompanied by some sort of official car. It wasn't a police car, a dark car, which did actually have a blue light inside the windscreen. It could have been in the screen defence, but it had no markings on the car. Now, this body, or tailor's dummy as they wanted people to believe, was put in a coffin and loaded into the hearse and taken away very quickly and very mysteriously. Now, bearing in mind, that was the 7th occasion that they'd found a tailor's dummy in that field. I'll refer to them as tailor's dummies. Were found by some hikers going across the field, and it was them who actually some of the authorities. And from my contacts who were at the scene there, they said the tailor's dummy was a human, and one thing which is very, very consistent with this is that whenever they find a human body or human mutilation, it has never got any hair on, it's never got any clothing on, and it's never got any hair. All the hair on the body is gone. Therefore, it could certainly look like a tailor's dummy to anybody who doesn't know. But this particular one was devoid of clothing, it was devoid of hair, and it had areas cut out which are consistent again with the mutilation, the human mutilation side. So that was the 7th case of that we were aware of. Now, I have some people well placed in the area, and one of them was a great friend of the undertaker who was involved in this, and he actually approached him to ask him about this particular incident, and the undertaker concerned absolutely flatly refused to speak to him about it. He would not talk to him about it at all, which my friend thought extremely strange, because I said they were great friends. Now, he later spoke to another undertaker. There's 2 opposing undertakers in the area, and it was at a cocktail party that he had to come across the opposing undertaker, and he mentioned this to him. And he said to him, he said, well, he can't tell you about what's going on because he's governed by the Official Secrets Act. This is an undertaker. And so my contact said to him, well, I understand there's been 7 bodies over a period of time removed from them fields up there. And the response of this other undertaker was, we've no idea, 7 is only the tip of the iceberg. Now the thing about it is, of course, when you get a body like this, it's under a certain coroner's jurisdiction, and it has to be dealt with within that area, i.e. if the East Coast area there would have to be dealt with by the Scarborough coroner. There is an absolute set of rules how these things are dealt with. The body is not even allowed to be moved out of that coroner's area without permission of that coroner. There was nothing in the papers about these bodies. This is the last one at all. The body was taken away. It was not dealt with in that area. And The undertaker disappeared for 2 days after he picked this body up and nobody knows where he went.
Tony doesn't mention the Brecon case in this talk. Derek Goff did tell me that Tony told him that his life would be at risk if he disclosed that he was in possession of those images. Perhaps this is why Tony never published them. Tony Dodd's lecture provides testimony that human mutilation cases may have occurred in the UK other than on Brecon beacons. And it's interesting to note the 2 locations where we suspect human mutilation is alleged to have occurred: Talibont Mountain, not far from military land at Sennybridge, and Dalby Forest, not far from military land at Fylingdales. This would lead some to conclude the mutilations must be military operations. I would agree with that only in part. The source told me that the military had a weapon which it was using to target UFOs. If this is true, then they would probably only fire it when a UFO is over large areas of military-controlled or unpopulated land. Could this explain why human mutilation cases have turned up next to these areas? So, you might ask the question, what is going on? And is it still going on? The few cases we know about in the UK took place in the 1990s. One thing the farmer at Lambetta told me was that the military presence in and around his remote farm in the 1990s was very active, and the military would often rent fields off farmers for use of helicopters and such like. But he said the activity significantly died down around the year 2000. If you ask me to guess on what might have been going on with the little information I have, here's my best stab at it. I think it's possible there was an American-led secret military project which was being ran in the 1990s under the authority of NATO. Its function was to target and acquire UFO hardware by attempting to disable them with a non-ballistic weapon which had been developed. The project was possibly using parts of the UK military for ground operations, to seal off and protect areas that had been affected by their air offensives. Some of these operations were carried out in the UK, but UFOs were only targeted over military-controlled areas so that debris could be easily collected by UK teams. So, why would human mutilation cases be turning up in these areas on the ground after such operations? Well, it's anyone's guess, but perhaps it was a form of retaliation. That's just a hunch. If anyone has any information on 5/8 Squadron engineers being seconded to Special Forces for such operation, I'd really like to hear from you. But you're not going to find out about this by submitting Freedom of Information requests. Thank you for listening, and sleep tight.